Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights, a strategic intelligence podcast. At GlobalData Strategic Intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors. I'm Archie Sewell, and today I'll be talking to Gary Barton and Robert Pritchard from the technology team. Today we'll be discussing some of GlobalData's predictions for ESG and tech for 2025. A full report depicting all of our depictions is now available across all ICs. Let's begin. Hi Gary, hi Rob. How are you both?
Very well, thank you.
Historically, the tech sector has been a leader in adopting ESG strategies. Do you think this will remain to be true moving into 2025? And what challenges is the tech sector facing that might affect further progress?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the tech sector has played an important role in particularly the sustainability part of ESG, but I think in terms of addressing many issues across the ESG spectrum. But there's no doubt that 2025 is changing things a bit, and one of the biggest moves actually happened at the end of 2024, the election of Donald Trump for a second term in the White House, and now his inauguration I think we've already seen that begin to have an impact at the end of 2024. We've seen very strong statements from the Trump administration, Trump 2.0, that ESG is a lower priority or indeed not a priority for the Trump administration. We've seen that then reflect on statements of ambition towards ESG, and the Americans refer to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I think we will see that ESG will play less of a role in the mindsets of particularly the US headquartered big tech companies. And we can see that already because within GlobalData's excellent data sets, we have within our company filings analytics platform, we track mentions of topics across key themes in company filings. And if we look at some of the biggest players in the US markets, if you take AT&T as an example, as the Biden administration came in to 2020, 2021, ESG was one of the most mentioned topics within its filings. Only mergers and acquisitions were mentioned more than ESG. 780 mentions across 2021 of ESG. In 2024, 68 mentions. So a very significant drop off as the anticipation of changes that would be made by Trump. And looking away from telcos, a company such as Microsoft, 2021, 1,250 mentions, 2022, 2,561 mentions, 2024 down to 299. So I think we can see that that already has had an impact on the mindset of tech companies. And then what does that mean for the industry, and what does it mean for enterprise customers? Well, potentially it creates a competitive advantage for the US-based companies if they're less hit by or less affected by legislation in areas such as sustainability. It may give them more freedom in their investment strategies. On the other hand, I don't think we necessarily should expect that it is going to completely manifest as we might expect. So yes, some of the language is very, trying to placate the Trump administration. But if we look at issues such as energy, well, energy costs are still high. If there's tariff wars globally, that there'll still be a need for the tech sector to reduce the energy it's using. Technologies such as AI are still going to use a lot of energy. So I think that what the language is and what the mindset, what the actual sort of the quieter actions of tech companies may not be the same thing. So whilst, yes, in filings and in what they're saying outwardly, ESG will be less prominent. There's still a lot of people within these organizations who care very deeply about ESG.
Yeah, there's a bipolar sort of approach happening where you're actually getting lists now of enterprises who are still committed to DEI, still committed to ESG, and others who are in retreat or denying. So I think what we'll see through the rest of the year is this sort of this trend of different geographies, different priorities, and different speeds. So the EU is still apparently very much behind ESG, but even here you're seeing some sort of pushback, and so there's going to be a lot of fragmentation. There will be people who remain committed, and there will be those who are taking the opportunity because of straitened times or whatever to revise their strategies.
Yeah, that's some really insightful stuff, guys. Thanks for that. So, across ESG, what is the most dominant focus in each tech sector, and do you foresee any changes moving into 2025?
Well, I'd say that first of all, sustainability is still the sort of dominant factor in ESG. It's the one that's most reported on, and we all see almost unfortunately on a daily basis the impact of wildfires and droughts and tornadoes, hurricanes, and so on and so forth. So the science is there. You can't deny the science. It's whether you decide to do anything about it yourself. So sustainability will remain the main focus. And you just look at some of the things that are coming through in tech, like the improvement in equipment efficiency, and just about every telco is switched to EVs now to save on just a basic level. There's this switch that Gary mentioned also towards new forms of energy like nuclear. A lot of people are sort of talking about small nuclear activities, and then also co-locating close to the power sources, so it's less impactful. There are plenty of examples of the circular economy, where either people are repurposing, reusing, or at least recycling old equipment. One example recently was Orange. All the equipment they used for the Paris Olympics in 2024 has been repurposed. There are also some fantastic management tools that tech companies are offering, so they can supply amazing amounts of data on things like what carbon dioxide, greenhouse gas usage is going on, and they're reporting on it in great level of detail.
Yeah, and I think that telcos that I cover primarily, I think they're, as Rob alluded to, are very much focused on that sustainability piece. When we see the rebuild from companies such as BT, Orange, Colt, they're very focused on their next gen network platforms and about the fact that they are much more ecologically friendly. They're much lower power demand. We saw it very heavily from BT with its new global fabric platform, and it's very keen to highlight that it's a significantly more efficient network platform. The intelligence that they build into those platforms can help enterprises, their enterprise customers, to become more ecologically minded when running their networks. So the dynamic routing capabilities of those networks can help enterprises to choose what's the most efficient path from an energy point of view. Can they select networks powered by more sustainable energy? Or conversely, if a company has anti-nuclear standpoint, can they select a network pathway that avoids using networks that will be powered by nuclear energy, for example? I mean, this is a slightly niche use case, but it starts to give companies those options in the way that they prioritize their traffic. And we could also see other technologies playing a big role. So, for example, IoT, the Internet of Things, essentially sensors that have wireless connectivity. Those are being used in projects such as smart buildings, helping enterprises, helping companies across the world to run their buildings in a much more energy efficient way. So technology is still playing a big role in helping the world to be greener.
And of course, we mustn't forget social and governance. And again, the tech companies tend to be leaders in these areas. A lot of them are actively recruiting and promoting a more balanced workforce. There have been plenty of studies by McKinsey and Washington University and other folk that have underlined the benefits of diversity in areas such as avoiding groupthink. And so a few years ago, for example, you wouldn't have imagined a majority of telco CEOs across Europe will be women, and now they are. So it's actively happening. And although it's becoming a little less fashionable, it's changing a bit. Like some people are retreating from some of their DEI commitments. It's still there. It's just changing in nature. But we'll probably touch on that in a little bit.
Again, guys, thank you for that. That was really great stuff. AI was the big tech theme in 2024. Do you have anything to say regarding ESG and AI, specifically moving into 2025?
There's no doubt that AI is the biggest potential sort of drain or cause of an increase in use of energy. AI is intensely power-hungry technology. Rob mentioned, companies looking at small nuclear reactor technology, looking to site close to power generation facilities. And AI is the primary reason for that. A lot of AI uses GPU, compute power, graphical processing, rather than standard CPU. this is much more power intensive to get the results that we need from AI technology. So it does have an impact on the carbon footprints of enterprises. And regardless of what happens at the White House, a lot of these companies have committed to carbon footprints. A lot of them have investors who have demanded that they have a sustainability targets embedded into their corporate ethos in order to sort of provide the funding. So it will still begin to have that impact. So when they deploy AI technology, they will have to consider the green impact of that. Of course, the flip side to this is running AI technology can also help enterprises to understand how to be more efficient, and that includes how to be more energy efficient. But I do think that if Trump continues to change legislation, it will free up American enterprises to use AI perhaps more freely than they might have anticipated, to be sort of more avant-garde with it. It has the potential to create an inequality in the playing field with American businesses versus, say, those in Europe.
Yeah, I'd echo that certainly. And it's interesting because there is definitely a fragmentation by location. And funnily enough, if you look at places like Scandinavia in particular, a recent example of, I think it was Equinix, who are now using excess heat from one of their data centers to share with local community and housing and offices. And part of it is a PR thing. It's good to look good, particularly in certain locations where people are more sensitive to these things. But also, they're trying to innovate. They have made these commitments, as Gary mentioned, and they have to use their big brains to try and work out how they're going to meet them, because the demands are so high on water and energy. And also, there's going to be a pushback increasingly from the communities in which they're operating, from the politicians who are around them to decide if they can build their data centers or not. There's been a few times where data centers have been knocked off the map or stopped or stalled because of the demand. And obviously, the electorate, the consumer, the people will come ahead of big business when it comes to natural resources, scarce natural resources, and old infrastructure like electricity and water.
Has anyone else got anything else to add before we finish?
Yeah, my overall observation is we're moving from sort of faith to facts in ESG. So whereas before it was a pretty thing to sign up to a lot, and it was a PR exercise as much as anything else, now it's going to be moving through this year to proving the bottom line impact. And there is evidence that it is good for business, but it's going to become crucial that if service providers in tech and the enterprises they serve are going to prove they need to invest in ESG, then they need to prove it alongside their financial reporting. It's just as important. ESG is moving increasingly into the small, medium business market as well, and extending along the value and supply chains, especially as people are looking more and more at Scope 3 reporting and the impact up and down the supply chain to their own services and products.
Thank you very much to our guest. That was really insightful. You can find out more from the ESG and Tech Reports report in our intelligence centers, as well as on the report store. Thank you for those instant insights, thank you for listening, and thanks from us in the Strategic Intelligence team. See you next time.